Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Omar, and these are my colleagues, Christina Border, Melanie Zamora, and Alina Diamond. Today we'll be researching the question, has the modern-day Olympics been detrimental to developing host countries in contrast to developed host countries? So, the modern-day Olympics has been around for over a century, spanning from cities all around the world, such as Berlin, Beijing, and Los Angeles. The Olympics is one of the most well-known sporting events in the world. However, do we really know its impacts? Cities all over the world are influenced by the Olympics. City governments such as LA's and Tokyo's compete against one another for the prospects of urban growth and tourism. However, developing countries are willing to do whatever is necessary in order to be successful in the Olympics, especially when they're hosts. Russia is one of those countries. During 2014, Russia was found guilty of a state-sponsored doping scheme that ran through the 2014 Sochi Olympic Winter Games, prompting the International Olympic Committee to ban them from the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympic Winter Games, with the exception of several players. Other examples of developing countries resorting to extremes are China and Brazil. As you can see here, there are extravagant venues of the Beijing Olympics and the Rio Olympics. However, underneath are the communities that are being left to ruin in order to make way for Olympic construction. In Beijing alone, according to Reuters, 1.5 million people were displaced during the construction of Olympic venues, and an estimated 60,000 were displaced in Rio, according to the Washington Post. Regardless of the negative effects the Olympics may have in regards to influence, there are some positive ones. As you can see here, North and South Korean athletes walking side by side under a one Korean flag pictured below, giving hope to a future where there is peace and stability within the region.
As soon as a bid is placed to the IOC, the International Olympics Committee, then the highest bid will be able to have the chance to host the Olympics. Which the country then has responsibility to present themselves honorably in order to obtain world recognition. As Joseph said earlier, with countries competing with tourism and marketing opportunities are all benefits to hosting the Olympics. However, comparing underdeveloped countries and developed countries, the cost either way has an impact to the economy based on the stability of the government budget. The difference between developed and underdeveloped countries is the stability of the economy before hosting, which means that the stability of the economy while the process of paying for the Olympics after the Olympics it's gone through. So Rio, Brazil is considered an underdeveloped country due to the low amount of gross domestic product, or GDP, and low living standards, which can be sourced by the CIA World Factbook. With the low budget, they had cutbacks on the following government services, such as K-12 education, healthcare for the nation, Brazil, and social and security services. With the low amount of budget, it also increased the unemployment rate post-Olympics after they had the Olympics, and it increased the unemployment rate from 11.3 to 13.1%. Therefore, the hosting of the Olympics impacts underdeveloped countries and economically and through the environment.
Just as Alina mentioned, the stability of the economy also takes into account that the environment will also have to have an account of this as well. For example, the IOC placed a caricature plan for all their potential host countries to possibly take the environment into account. As you can see here, for a greater future. We could see this in developing and developed countries such as Rio and Sydney. We can also see that in Beijing, the pollution levels with this caricature plan that they've in place were supposed to lower the air pollution, but yet from July 18th through August 18th, the pollution levels fluctuated. Although they may have a decreasement in the lower towards the 18th, they can also see that the plans were not as effective. We can also see in the 2000 Olympic Games, health, security, environmental, and doping scandal. Since the 2014, the official estimates of the percentages of the city's sewage that will be receiving treatment by the start of 2016 Games have dropped from 80% to only 30% in the early 2016. This is shown as Rio did not in place their kindergarten plan, as well as many of the other ones, such as the Lillehammer Winter Games that protected the environment and the beautification of Norway. We can also see that the pollution levels in Rio, comparing a sample of just of the water and a clean sample, as shown here, can place its citizens, its tourists, and its athletes at risk for health problems. We can also see that their effects of their plans, such as Sochi's zero waste policy, forced many of the citizens to migrate to other places because of the pollution levels that they're putting in their backyards. We can also see that in Rio, they destroyed homes in order to make way for these venues. So can we take the people, the citizens, in place better than the Olympics in general?
On one hand, many individuals argue that the Olympics is beneficial because it brings an immersion of different cultures and diversities across the world to one event, despite any war, famine, or problems occurring in the world today. However, as stated by Appearing Global, the average ticket price for the 2012 London Olympic Games was around $3,000. This creates an upper echelon effect where only a certain amount of people that can economically feasibly buy a ticket can attend the games, and they're only in the Olympic venue area, whereas many of the natives, such as in the London Olympics, are on the outskirts, which many of the people coming to see don't get to interact with them. As well as many Brazilians from the 2016 Rio Olympics greeted many Olympians coming in the airport with these signs. This was due to the fact that many first responders in Rio, such as firefighters and police officers, were not being paid. Why? Well, the Rio had spent over $860 million on the Olympic infrastructure and were therefore in debt, having to borrow more money from the Brazilian government itself. They weren't able to even pay their first responders, allowing many individuals that lived in Rio no time and no security in themselves. Also, as Joseph previously stated, around 60,000 Rio citizens were displaced. Why? Well, the Rio government, prior to the 2016 Olympics and around January, lasting a month after the Olympics, cut bus routes from North and South Rio. This was because North Rio was predominantly of low minorities and blacks, and the South Rio was where the Olympic construction was taking place. The Rio government did not want any immersion of cultures to see the predominantly low income classes, and the low classes therefore could not transport to their jobs, and they became more economically in debt because of this. Also, as Melanie previously stated, Guanabara Bay was trashed 6 months after the 2016 Rio Olympics took place. How could we fix this? Well, underdeveloped countries don't take care of their infrastructure, and we can look at the USA, for example, where their 1984 LA and 1996 Atlanta Olympic venues are still intact. They use them for events, recreational events such as concerts and football and baseball games. So how can we create a solution? We could create a sector for awareness among the IOC, or the International Olympic Committee, through social media platforms, raising awareness like hashtags Beyond the Rings, looking at the people that are actually hurting. Previously, Snapchat partnered with NBC and BuzzFeed to talk about how many Olympians are, their stories, how they got to the Olympics itself. Instead, we can bring the IOC to raise awareness with Snapchat by bringing in many people that are suffering in these areas instead, bringing in the millennials to want to interact. The downfall to this could be that the Olympics do, through social media, is that they may not establish any concrete ideas within the people, and the people itself would have to morally decide to want to listen to what's being said. So today, February 8th, during the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics,
Who will you be watching?
The players.
For the people.
We need to take a step back and come together. Thanks. Great use of time. All right, Alina, we'll start with you. What's the strongest counter argument to the solution your team identified, and why so?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What was the strongest counter argument that your team identified, and then why so? What was that?
So reaching out to people would be an issue, and people most likely won't even know about the things that are happening within the outside of the Olympics with the citizens of, like, let's say Rio, for example, that most of my team members stated, such as Christina, as Christina stated, with how Rio is impacted by the players, like how the players are seeking. Snapchat is focusing on the players instead of the people, and that's the thing. Yeah.
Okay. Christina, describe how the content of your team presentation was changed as a result of your group discussions.
Well, first off, the original content we had was going out and getting interviews. Like, we had an interview from Dwayne Solomon, who was it was a first-hand evidence. He was an Olympian that won a 4x8 medal in the 2012 Olympics, but we decided not to use it because our problem was predominantly on the people of the Rio location or Olympic location rather than the players.
Okay. In the future, what change would you make to your group norms, and how would you expect that to improve your team's presentation?
The changes I would make would be scheduling more like directly. Like, for example, we would say, oh, okay, so like, can anyone meet today, instead of like having set days. We would have set days, but it wouldn't be as often, and especially since like some of our team members had athletic after school practices, we would always try to meet like during the 1:50 to 2:30, but I felt like it was not enough time, so I felt we should have met a bit more to practice than our slides.
Okay. Joseph, in what way would you improve, in what way did you improve your ability to work with a group as a result of this project?
Well, as Melanie previously stated, a lot of us were busy when it comes to athleticism or maybe even clubs, and I feel like personally how I improved would be patience and how, like, when to meet up and what people can do, and to a certain extent that people are able to do certain things, and being able to work with that and keep an open mind with no matter who I'm working with was something I really improved on.
All right, good. Thank you.